Late night is ending. So Stephen Colbert, you might know him from the Colbert Report he was originally on The Daily Show. Then he had his own show on Comedy Central. I believe it was half an hour, maybe an hour every night on Comedy Central. Then he got pulled over into CBS with Late Night, which was originally designed to compete with The Tonight Show, which was Johnny Carson's property that he ran for 30 years, 1962 to 1992. Run. Absolutely legendary run. Jay Leno took that show over, gave it to Conan for a year, went back. Very controversial. Late Night Wars, very fun deep dive to dig into. But Emily Jashinsky has a story in Pirate Wires all about late night. I have some facts here that were sticking out to me. So the high level is that The Late Show, Stephen Colbert's daily late night TV show.
How many days a week is it?
It's 5 days a week. They do 190 episodes per year. So they take a few weeks off in between little breaks.
So pretty casual.
Yes, pretty casual. We are on track to produce 4 times as much content this year. But they spend $100 million to produce.
We spend
much
5
less.
times as much.
You keep pulling those daily GT3RSs. I mean, they were spending, how much is a GT3RS? $400K? They could have bought a GT3RS for every single episode, because they were spending $100 million to produce 190 hour-long episodes every year. And so this wasn't a problem, because back in 2009, they were pulling in $271 million in revenue. So, I mean, and I'm sure that they were actually spending less back in 2009. So the margin on that show was immense, like 60%, 70%, maybe even higher. The problem is that the revenue started declining because the audience got older and ad dollars moved around.
The average viewer,
the median viewer of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert is over 59 years old. So it is effectively like a retired audience. So they're not as likely to buy expensive products. And if they buy those products, they might not stay with them forever, because they might churn, because they might pass away. And so
lower LTV.
And then also it's a very broad audience. It's a very political audience. It's a very general comedy, politics, daily news audience, very broad. So you can only sell broad things. And that's why you see, Unilever, like, you're watching an ad and you see, you're watching The Late Show.
Or T-Mobile.
Verizon, and then you see Dove shampoo or something. Like, you just see generic products, not hyper specific, like ADIO, which is customer relationship magic. ADIO is the AR native CRM that builds, scales, and grows your company to the next level. You can get started for free. You're not going to see that on The Late Show.
Yeah, you just won't.
You just won't. And so revenue kept falling. Now they make less than 70 million. Reports were maybe like 60 million in revenue. Now Colbert is taking 15 million a year home personally. And then the rest of the show costs 85 million to produce. About 50 million of that is probably salaries. There's a bunch of other costs that go into it. They have a live band. They fly people around. They have hair and makeup and all sorts of, they have to license music, and they do all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So then they went from at one point making $200 million in profit off this a year, amazing, to losing 40 million. And importantly, CBS is going through an acquisition. And so there's a whole bunch of problems where you don't necessarily want to have this massive loss-making asset sitting there while you're trying to sell the company and restructure everything. And then, so there's a little bit of conspiracy. And Keith Olbermann was saying, he put on the tinfoil hat and was saying, like, this is all because Trump is, like, Colbert criticized Trump, and this is a straw man hat.
I'm going to get at the straw man.
Yeah, we're not making this argument. This is no one's really making this argument except for Keith Olbermann.
Yeah,
put on the straw hat. By the way, I like the straw hat.
By the way, new straw.
This is a funny hat.
I don't even know what kind of hat this is.
A straw, some sort of straw hat.
I got to sit lower so that it'll fit in.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, the obvious thing here is that Stephen Colbert,
yeah,
whoever that is, was a zero interest rate phenomenal. You have a business.
He's in the business for 30 years.
I mean,
it's great.
Yeah. Who wants to be the proud owner of a business that loses $40 million a year like clockwork?
Yeah. So it was a loss leader for CBS. Basically, during upfronts when they're selling ads to everyone, they go to Target and they say, "Hey, how about we put you with Stephen Colbert?" And they're like, "Sure, but then we also want to be on the game shows." And then the game shows make higher margins and they lose money on the Late Show. But a company like Target wouldn't want to advertise on the game show unless they can also be with Colbert and the prestige TV that's happening there. So basically, they're losing $40 million. What's interesting is that you would think that they would be able to cut back the cost and say, "Hey, look, we're making half as much revenue. We need to produce this for half as much money. And so, Colbert, you got to take a haircut. Folks, you got to take a haircut.
50 people
instead of 100." And
200.
Yeah. Was it 200 people?
It was 200 people.
200 people. Okay. Yeah. 200 people. So,
and apparently, so we were messaging some people over the weekend, some media moguls, and they were saying, I mean, it's very routine for there to be 2 people tasked that, like, effectively their full-time job is like moving one camera. And so effectively is just a culture of inefficiency that has a bunch of different reasons why that is, but doesn't really work in the modern era. So the interesting thing here is I was trying to figure out kind of what happens from here. So CBS has confirmed they're not doing a replacement host.
No.
They're not gonna hire like an H-1B Stephen Colbert.
I think they're going to put a talk show in there.
Yeah.
In that slot,
so anyways,
which is
like, it's
margin.
going away. There's no indication that ABC, NBC, Netflix, Max, or any of those platforms is like going to try to launch one of these Johnny Carson style shows. But I think the right move for Stephen Colbert is it's not my flavor of comedy entertainment, but I think he could have. I think if he went independent and effectively launched a live show, podcast, something of that sort, he could continue to earn exactly what he's earning today.
Yeah.
And just do it with a much smaller team. Maybe even have a better lifestyle. Maybe he starts doing the show in the morning.
Yeah. I mean, there was $60 million of like, we want to advertise on Stephen Colbert, like flowing into this property.
Yeah.
If he provides a similar level of experience and content, he should be able to sell similar levels of ads.
Yeah.
Maybe not 60, but maybe 30. And then he takes home 15 and he has 15 to spend on, a smaller team. And what's crazy is like during the COVID era, all of the late night shows went to like from home episodes where they were basically doing them over Zoom, and then they set up like nicer camera setups, and they were able to do those shows way cheaper. But I think because of the union, it wasn't palatable or really like easy to just cut back on staff and cut back on salaries or switch to some sort of more incentive pay, which is tricky. And we just talked to Delian about this, where in France there was a company that wanted to their business wasn't doing so well. They wanted to lay off folks,
too many people,
and they couldn't do it. And so the government basically said they had to shut down.
In France, there's policies that effectively require companies to pay years of severance. So it ends up becoming a massive liability on the balance sheet. Yeah. And anyways.
Yeah. So Emily Jasinski over at Pirate Wire says CBS is not just pushing out Stephen Colbert, it's retiring the iconic Late Show brand altogether. That's the buried lead getting lost amidst frenzied speculation over politics and palace intrigue. If cutting Colbert is a bid to juice Paramount's pending merger or to punish him for criticizing it, as Democrats are now arguing, because Colbert said that CBS as a company should not have, or Paramount should not have settled a lawsuit with Trump, I believe. CBS just stumbled right into the future, Emily says. She says, Colbert's time at the helm of The Late Show perfectly illustrates the most important trend in media and culture. One might fairly wonder how Colbert, a man who leaned so far into #resistance comedy he could hardly get up, has dominated the late night wars throughout Donald Trump's hostile takeover of American politics. Johnny Carson, for example, famously skewered both political parties without fear or favor. Carson won the late night wars when networks faced less competition, meaning his goal was to appeal to as wide a swath of the American public as possible for the sake of selling more ads. By the time Colbert took the helm from David Letterman, late night ratings had collapsed from their high watermark. That's particularly why Greg Gutfeld is able to actually beat Colbert's ratings on a cable network, a feat that would have been unthinkable in the 1990s. Like Colbert, though, Gutfeld doesn't approach politics as Carson did. This is the new model. Cultivate a loyal niche that returns night after night, giving you an edge over others competing for an increasingly smaller slices of the pie. The result is a microculture. Monocultural institutions like The Late Show or The New York Times can no longer no longer do appeal more widely than their core audiences. For the Times, this is their subscriber base, and it's why, for instance, the paper committed obvious journalistic malpractice by yanking Senator Tom Cotton's infamous Send in the Troops op-ed back in 2020. As the paper of record for all of America, that decision made no sense. Cotton was expressing a mainstream position in his party and in the country, but Times subscribers were furious, and that critical business interest shifted the outlet's editorial position. This, of course, was helped along by a staff increasingly aligned on an ideological level with the paper's narrow subscriber niche. One of the greatest sources of cultural angst stems from the ability to recognize these institutions of the monoculture have shifted to microculture, whether they supported Trump or Bernie Sanders. Plenty of Americans outside affluent urban bubbles figured that out years ago. It is the institutions themselves that often cling to the outdated brands, so blinded by their own biases that it's become difficult for the C-suites to even recognize what's happening outside of Manhattan, and the Hamptons don't count. Anyway, fantastic analysis from Emily. You should subscribe to Pirate Wires to go read the full thing. But lots of people were having fun with this. How does a late show cost $100 million to produce? That was a big question. I think a lot of it's just, Letterman started in the 90s, so this is 30 years of just like, yeah, let's just add one more person. Like 30 years is only adding 60 people a year, way less, 6 people a year. So you're adding like 1 a quarter, which is like not that much. And I think it just kind of creeps in, but you got to be aware when revenue starts dropping, like you have to right the ship, and you can't just keep losing money because it doesn't give you leverage over CBS, who's trying to get out and sell the company. Buco Capital Bloke says, I can't stop laughing at CBS losing $40 million a year on The Late Show with Colbert because they were spending $100 million a year to produce it. A show of a guy talking, sometimes to other people. Is there a less competent group of industry executives than linear television? Alex Roy, friend of the show, says, media is a business. Colbert already has an audience. He should have no problem launching a YouTube channel. I agree. Yep. Many friends run profitable YouTube channels with millions of subs with staffs of less than 10 people. They started from scratch. Signed, a media business veteran. The left has been looking for its Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson. Why shouldn't Colbert be that guy? That's interesting.